first kind of tip when you're looking at different makeup or skincare ingredients is to really look at the ingredient deck of it. So currently, when you're looking at ingredients, you'll see active versus inactive, and you have to really take a look at both sides. Beware of brands too, because sometimes brands will switch up their ingredients. And so this is why a lot of times with my patients, I'm really reluctant to recommend one brand specifically or to avoid a brand specifically, because it can very well change. So you really just need to be on top of it, looking at the ingredients in your products and figuring out if it's something that is going to be a good complement to either your systemic health or your ocular health. Bad ingredients, which I'll show you a list here in a minute, kind of things that they could potentially cause. A lot of them are known to be carcinogens. The Breast Cancer Foundation has really done a really good job at kind of highlighting some of these carcinogens that are in our everyday products and how detrimental those can be for systemic health. But at the same time, they can be just as not good for our ocular health. A lot of ingredients they're what are called endocrine disruptors, which basically kind of disrupt your hormones. Hormones regulate everything about your body. So it's important that those are in balance and are as healthy as they can be. A lot of ingredients can also really cause a lot of inflammation to the ocular surface, which can lead to dry eye disease, which can cause comfort issues, which can cause vision issues. Your oil glands can get clogged. They can slowly start to die. And, repeated use of just a lot of exposure to these not so great ingredients can just have a really negative kind of long-term impact on the health of your eye. So if you're a patient at Smart Eye Care, you might already actually have this handout, but this is kind of a general list of ingredients to avoid. So if you want to take like a screenshot of it or, picture with your phone, do it, because it's a lot, and it's a lot of like funky words that, are a little bit crazy to pronounce. So, but when you're looking at this, use this list and go through any sort of ingredient, any sort of product that's coming in contact with your head. Look at it and see if it has these. And, maybe you're not going to give up your ride or die eyeshadow tomorrow, but if you can minimize some of these in some fashion, long-term wise, those add up to a bigger term. Another big thing with ingredients is actually preservatives. So there's a lot of preservatives in pretty much everything, whether it's makeup, skincare, shampoos, conditioners, even eye drops. And so preservatives aren't all bad. Their purpose that they're used is to prevent bacteria from getting into, different fungi, to prevent different bacterial or fungal infections. But some preservatives can be really detrimental to your eye health. So the big one that I generally recommend for people to avoid is something called BAK, which you see here. So BAK is in a lot of different stuff and even in a lot of eye drops for quote unquote sensitive eyes. So if we can avoid BAK altogether or minimize it, that is ideal. What BAK does to the ocular surface is that it just causes a lot of inflammation. So in this photo here, this is actually the picture of the front part of somebody's eye. And so when we're looking at inflammation in the eye world, we put in a little bit of a yellow dye because it highlights any kind of dry patches that are on the front surface. So this is the cornea that we're looking at here. And all of that green kind of patchiness that's there, these are just dry patches that are on the front surface. So if you can imagine, if you have all of this kind of roughed up area, that's going to cause some comfort issues. It's also going to make vision a little bit blurry. So this is kind of a zoomed in version of what a preservative can do to the front part of the eye. So you'll still be able to see, but you probably just won't be seeing as crisp as you potentially could. And sometimes patients will come in with vision issues, or maybe they're seeing their optometrist or their local eye doctor because they think their vision has changed. And a lot of times their glasses or contact lens prescription is exactly the same. Their eye health really is the bigger issue because of the ingredients that they're using. And when you're looking at ingredients, even if it's coming in contact with your face and maybe you're avoiding the eye area, the eyes and the face and the body, they're all connected. So you really have to, anything on your head, guard with the utmost priority. So ingredient wise, we live in a day and age where it's easy to find ingredient decks online, right? You can just pull up the manufacturer, find the product, and most of the time you'll be able to find a PDF version of what's in it. But a couple of other resources are listed here. Like if you're out on the go, you're in Ulta, you're shopping around, you're not quite sure. There's the Think Dirty app. And then the Ingredient app, which you can put on any sort of a smartphone, and these can be really helpful to kind of help you screen what's actually in the product, things to look for. And then the website listed there on the bottom is also a great resource for just figuring out what products are maybe a little bit more friendly to the systemic or eye health. My second tip is to really watch expired products. And I have to say, I, like probably many of you, have been guilty of this in the past. Makeup can be expensive. Skincare can be expensive. And so when you invest in something, sometimes it's tough to give it up, even though it's maybe past its prime. You wouldn't be drinking spoiled milk, so don't put spoiled milk on your face. So how do you know if something's expired? So pretty much most products, as you'll see here in the left photo in that red circle, will have kind of a number with the M and that kind of lid sort of photo. And so the products on the left, the 9M means that within like 9 months of it being opened, you probably need to be tossing it. So ingredients could expire every 3 to 36 months. It kind of depends what's in it, what preservatives are there, what the ingredient deck look like. But make sure that you're looking at that and keeping tabs of when you purchased your products. Another big thing to watch out for is mascara. So mascara really should be replaced every 1 to 3 months. Mascara is notorious for hiding different fungi and different bacterial in those tubes. And so as hard as it is to part with it every 1 to 3 months, chunk it and get another one. Your eye health is so, so important. I have friends that use like their contact lens solution to like re-wet their tube to like scrape the last little bit out, and don't do it, just chunk it. If financially it's an issue, switch to a cheaper one, because long-term wise, it's going to be pricier to undo the eye health part of it than to just pick a better mascara from the get-go. My third tip is to make sure you're always removing your eye makeup when you're sleeping. So I know all of us are guilty of this. You're tired, you had a long day, you might maybe take your foundation off, but maybe you're not getting all of that mascara and eyeliner off completely. And you really need to be doing it because it can cause some major issues down the road. So this photo is really gross, and I'm sorry if you're eating because it's probably not the best thing to be watching over a lunch. But this is actually, so this case study came out in the Journal of Ophthalmology last year, and it's of a patient, and it's her upper eyelid is flipped, and all of that black kind of brownish areas is mascara and different eye makeup that has just built up over time because she never took her eye makeup off whenever she went to bed. So don't let this be you. Eventually it will catch up with you. So this patient, I think, started having some infections and that sort of a thing, but nobody wants mascara that they had from like 20 years ago stuck up under their eyelid. So take it off, put in the extra 2 minutes, and get rid of it. Another kind of look at what it can look like maybe on a less severe schedule than that previous photo. So this photo is actually from a good colleague of mine, Dr. Odell. And if you look at that lower lid, you'll see kind of this film that's there, and that's just kind of residual eye makeup. And so you have to make sure that you're getting all of that off and not just, leaving little remnants for it to kind of harbor this biofilm, this kind of layer of bacteria, because that can set you up for an infection and not so great things down the road. My fourth tip is to really try to avoid glitter if possible and avoid anything that is waterproof. This previous photo, as I showed here, is actually from a waterproof mascara, and waterproof, while at times has its advantages, such as on like a special occasion or maybe an event where maybe some tears will be involved, If you can avoid it, using it on a regular basis daily, that is ideal because it's harder to remove. And so it's more likely that you're going to get kind of that biofilm that's built up like you see in this photo. So waterproof, try to avoid it altogether if you can, but if you have to use it, just save it for, you know, the special occasions when you might be a little bit teary-eyed. The glitter part of it. So glitter in and of itself, especially like in the bottom photo where you kind of have that loose glitter that's really popular in the makeup industry, that glitter can fall into the oil glands in the eye and kind of like clog up the drain basically. So if you can imagine dumping a bunch of sand down your drainage system, eventually stuff isn't going to be able to move. And that's what these glitter flecks can create. The other part of glitter is that a lot of times the stuff that makes it sparkly is mica, M-I-C-A, which is basically ground up stone. So it's really nice, it's finely milled, but then you have all these stone pellets that are basically falling into your oil glands that can cause some really not so great things long term. So again, it doesn't mean you have to avoid it altogether. The purpose of this, you know, discussion is to figure out ways where you can incorporate some improvements, but you know, a better approach would be to try to just use it as minimally as possible. For the oil glands, this is kind of what they look like. So all along the lower and the upper lids, we have these oil glands, and their purpose is to secrete oils that coat the front surface of the eye. And so they have all of these little openings that sit right in that waterline area. So if the glitter is falling into those glands, or if those little mica stones are falling into those glands, you just get all of these little kind of backed up plumbing issues. So if you think of things like a sty, or a hordeolum as we call it in the eye care world, that sometimes can be because of a backed up plumbing issue. Tip number 5, avoid tight lining or water lining the eyelids. So I used to do this all through my teens and 20s because it gives a really great aesthetic appeal. I since know better and don't do it. But so the water line, like if you pull the eyelid down right in that area between where the eyelash and kind of your eyeball sits, that's the water line, which is the opening for where all of your oil glands are. But some people, like the photo on the left, will put like a nude color or a white eyeliner to make your eyes, to make you look more awake, to make your eyes pop. And then sometimes a dark liner to make the eye look more elongated, or to kind of just accentuate it, make it look a little bit bigger than it is. So again, special occasions, sure, you might need, you know, to potentially use some of these really cool beauty hacks to achieve the aesthetic result that you want, but try not to use them on the daily. Don't seal off those glands. When you put eyeliner in that area, it just completely seals them off so that those oils are not escaping to the front surface. The other thing with these is really watch the ingredient deck. So not only is putting eyeliner in that water line sealing them off, but you're directly exposing all of those oil glands to maybe some harmful ingredients that can cause inflammation that can lead to some kind of further ocular surface issues down the road. Healthy oil glands look like this. So if you've been to Smart Eye Care and if you've had me as a doc, we've probably talked about your oil glands because it's something that I'm super passionate about. And at all of our locations in Augusta, Farmingdale, and Bangor, we have what's called a mybographer, where we basically screen these oil glands free of charge for patients. And it's helpful because it can really detect a lot of early problems if caught soon enough. So this is a picture of what healthy oil glands look like. And probably for a lot of you, it also probably looks gross, but I think it looks fantastic. So these are very healthy glands. So if we were to pull down the lower lid like this photo has here, each of those white columns, those little white worm-like looking things, are the oil glands. These look great. We want them to be nice and long. We want them to be perfectly spaced and very straight. If something starts to clog these glands, whether it's from, other medication issues or cosmetic exposure to different ingredients, they can start to look like this. And you can see here a lot of those little columns, they're like in half now, or that one area in the middle where the gland is just gone altogether. So this is a case where those oil glands are slowly starting to die, which a lot of times can happen because of our cosmetic and skincare routines. So let's keep those glands healthy. Let's keep them nice and long, and try to avoid this issue if possible. Tip number 6 is to avoid permanent makeup, specifically eyeliner if you can. And if you've already had it, it's okay. Just don't go for a touch up. So not only is the ink in the tattooing part of it very toxic to the eye, it's also because of how it's applied. The needle goes in and it basically just destroys all those oil glands that we just looked at. So down the road, almost every patient that's had kind of a tattooed, especially eyeliner experience, usually ends up in our dry eye clinic with all of these either blurry vision issues, all of these comfort issues, or their eyes are always red and aesthetically they're not super happy with it. So just be really careful about that aspect. The other thing to remember about tattoo eyeliner is that it fades. So maybe the first couple years it's going to look amazing and, you know, black and dark or dark brown. Usually with time it will fade to kind of a bluish tint. And so maybe just ask yourself if in 10 years you really want permanent blue eyeliner. That just might be a good deterrent to make you think twice about potentially getting it done. And if you're thinking about it and you're like, I don't care about my oil glands, that's fine too. I would just advise you to, you know, talk to your eye care provider, tell them what you're thinking about, see if there's other ways that you can achieve the same aesthetic result without maybe potentially compromising your eye health. Tip number 7 is to avoid sharing. So sharing is not caring in this sense. Any makeup product, especially eye makeup product, really should be for you and your sole consumption. When you're sharing mascaras, eyeliners, you know, anything in between, you're potentially running the risk of exposing your eyes and your face to bacteria that could cause an infection and other kind of not so pretty things. So make sure not sharing is definitely ideal. The other thing with sharing to be aware of is beauty counters. So post-COVID, it's a little bit different because it's, you know, the different department stores and even like Ulta or Sephora, you can't really necessarily test all their products anymore. But if things change or, you know, if you think back to kind of pre-COVID days, those beauty counters are not always sanitized. There's no regulations in place to really kind of mandate how those testers are staying clean. And so be careful about how you're using them and if you're applying them directly to your eye area, because that could potentially put you at a risk for getting an infection. Tip number 8 is to make sure that you're cleaning your brushes or any sort of a beauty tool pretty frequently. You know, in a perfect world, every day, sure, but minimally try to do it once a week. You know, things happen, life gets busy, I totally get it, but if you're not cleaning them, you're just kind of harboring bacteria. So make sure you're taking the time, put it as part of your routine, and just try to create a good reminder to make sure you're cleaning those tools and devices. The other thing to watch with this is watch the ingredients that you're using to clean your makeup tools. So you might be doing an awesome job on really kind of vetting the different products that you're using and making sure that those ingredients are very eye health friendly. But then if you're just using basically anything to clean those brushes, you're still exposing yourself to potentially some not so great ingredients. So with any product you use, even if you're not directly putting it onto your face, if it's coming in contact with your headspace, really look at the ingredient deck. Tip number 9 is to use a mineral-based sunscreen and to apply sunscreen to your eyelids. So this photo is a black light that shows where this person applied sunscreen. So most people probably don't apply sunscreen to the eye area, right? You're probably trying to avoid that area. You don't want it to get into your eye and burn. But the eyelid is, the skin thickness on the eyelid is the thinnest there than it is anywhere in the body, which means that it's more susceptible to things like aging, which we don't really want, and also skin cancer. And fun fact, about 10% of all skin cancers in general account for the eye area, and that's like the smallest, you know, geographically the smallest area on the body. So Apply to the area. Try to use a real kind of mineral-based sunscreen if you can. We could probably do like a whole kind of spiel on sunscreen, but general things to kind of look out for. Make sure here in the US that it's broad spectrum. If you just look at SPF, SPF is only kind of dictating the UVB rays. UVB, while it can cause aging, it's more related to burn. We want to prevent aging, so we have to make sure we're blocking out UVA. So broad spectrum, look for that, and if it has that, that should be blocking both UVA and UVB. Mineral-based, even a lot of really popular sunscreens that are, you know, cult favorites or kind of all in the beauty range actually have ingredients that cause a lot of inflammation, not only to the face, but especially to the eyes. And if you have rosacea or ocular rosacea, sunscreen is something that you need to pay extra important attention to. Also beware, because sometimes people don't always use a secondary sunscreen because they think the one that's in their makeup is enough. And it may or may not be, but talk to your, you know, either your eye care professional, your dermatologist, your primary care provider. Talk about which sunscreen is better for you. Since we're in summer, if you want to learn more, a couple months ago, I actually published an article about sunscreen and how it affects eye health. This is not meant to be a plug, but if you generally want some information, you could probably just Google like Quint sunscreen eye health, and I'm sure the article would pop up. Tip number 10, red eyes, beware. So a lot of times, nobody wants red eyes, right? They do not signify eye health. They do not signify beautiful eyes. So people try to avoid them. And usually what people will do, the average consumer will do like an get the red out drop. So things like Visine, Clear Eyes, Lumify, and probably, you know, any other spinoff of it. And they can a lot of times mask an underlying condition like dry eye disease. So if you're having red eyes, if you're finding the need that you're using some of these get the red out drops frequently, make sure you're talking to your eye care provider about possibly addressing the root cause of it, so that down the road, you know, you're not building up this kind of huge dry eye condition that's going to take years to undo. Other symptoms of dry eye, because dry eye is actually pretty common, which is why we created at Smart Eye Care the whole dry eye center, but a lot of people don't realize that they have it. And so as a general rule, kind of common things to look out for, obviously red eyes, burning eyes, watering eyes. Like if your eyes are just running all the time, that's actually a sign of dry eyes. If they're gritty, if you have a foreign body sensation, just keep those in mind and talk to your local optometrist. Women are more likely to have dry eye disease for a lot of different reasons. Sometimes it's hormone based, but also because we are exposing our skin, like we talked about at the very beginning, to just a lot more ingredients, a lot more products than our male counterparts. And so keep, you know, dry eye disease on your radar, especially as we get more birthdays under our belt, because it is a real problem that can creep up down the road. All right, so those are my top 10 tips. Let's talk about a few more specific beauty things. So eyelashes. So everybody wants long, beautiful eyelashes. They are all the rage. They do a lot of really cool aesthetic things for your look. And the purpose of eyelashes as a whole is really to offer protection. You know, you have these little hairs in place to keep things out of your eyes. And so there's kind of this debate of what's the ideal length. And so in the beauty world, probably the general trend is longer, bigger is better. But from an eye health standpoint, the optimal length is actually 1/3 of your eye width. So if you have kind of larger width eyes, you could probably health-wise get away with longer lashes. But if you tend to have a little bit more of a narrow eye width, then you probably really maybe want to make sure that you're opting for a shorter lash. When it gets to be too long and kind of outside this optimal length, it actually creates an air funnel. There's research that has looked at this. And so it creates this air funnel where all of this air and all of this debris is just being funneled to the front surface of the eyes. So just be really, really careful of that. So, here in the photo, we have some falsies, some false eyelashes, and there's, you know, there's a lot of different versions. There's individual lashes, there's strips, there's partial strips, there's magnetics, there's some that you apply with glue. And general things to be aware of is that most of the time, complications that come from false eyelashes have to do with an allergy, either to the glue or the magnetic part that is used to adhere the lash to the eyelid. And especially with magnetic lashes, they can cause lash loss. So if you're using lashes because maybe you don't have optimal lashes, especially with magnetic ones, be careful of those because you want to keep the few lashes that you do have. And then another big third one to be aware of if you are a regular user of false lashes is dry eye disease. So this doesn't mean that you have to give up false lashes altogether, but potentially some healthier options to consider would be to, if you're using a glue, try to avoid formaldehyde. On the next slide, I'll give you kind of a list that you can take a picture of all of the other names for formaldehyde. So formaldehyde, we probably know it's used to preserve dead bodies. You probably don't want that on the front surface of the eye. So, and there are glues out there that don't have it in there. So do your due diligence, try to avoid that ingredient if you can. Another healthier option would maybe to kind of opt for more of a natural length than a true glam. You know, less is more in this sense. So if you are picking between a partial strip and a full strip, try to do, you know, the partial strip, maybe applying a few individuals rather than the full strip would be kind of better. And again, if you can, take breaks. Give your eyes breaks. Let those eyelashes and those eyelids breathe. Save it for special occasions. It doesn't mean you have to give it up altogether, but you just as a consumer need to know kind of what the long-term risks are. So this is a slide that talks all about formaldehyde. So when you're looking at it, the ingredients, you might not realize that it's actually formaldehyde. So these are all things to avoid if you can. So when we're talking about glue, it's both for kind of false eyelashes that you reapply daily, but also for eyelash extensions. So eyelash extensions most of them have glues that have formaldehyde. So talk to your esthetician. Partner with them, find a glue that still works really well that doesn't have the formaldehyde ingredients. So eyelash extensions, very popular, very trendy right now. They give a really good look and they can be really great because you don't have to apply it yourself if your dexterity skills aren't the best. Common things that I as an eye care provider see with eyelash extensions are a lot of glue allergies. If you get them on or if you have a fill, if your eyelids are a little bit red, irritated, swollen, even if it's minor, usually that's because of a sensitivity that you're having to the glue that they're using. The other big thing is to really watch the hygiene aspect of it. So if you're not good with gross photos, look away for this next slide. But this, a lot of times, is what I see on patients who have eyelash extensions. And it's really kind of the ugly truth of extensions because from far away, they look super glam and fabulous. And then when you get up close, as you can see here, there's all of this bacteria at the base of the lash. A lot of times eye mites called Demodex will start to hang out here. And that, as you can imagine, is just like a plaque. It can cause some not so great things. So not only can it make your extensions last a little bit less, like if you're paying good money for them, you want them to last as long as they can. So you need to make sure you're addressing the hygiene portion of it so that you can keep your eyelids healthy. Sometimes too, when somebody gets their eyelash extensions removed, they'll a lot of times lose a lot of eyelashes or have some issues there. And a lot of times it's because they had this built up kind of hygiene issue that if maybe it would have been a little bit better cared for down the road, they would have kind of a better outcome. So doesn't mean you have to give up eyelash extensions altogether, but some healthier options or things to incorporate in. Work with your esthetician to find better materials. Hold them to a higher standard of care, a higher standard of beauty. They're out there. You just have to look for them. Avoid formaldehyde and glues if at all possible. Again, less is more. If you can do a little bit more of a natural length, great, or fewer lashes to achieve the same aesthetic result, that would be helpful too. Keep them clean. I'll show you some tips and tricks on the next slide for that. And then talk to your eye care provider. You know, the general public, whenever they're starting like a new medication or a new supplement, it's always, you know, talk to your primary care provider to see if it's a good fit for you. That's kind of the same thing with eyes. If you're doing anything with the eyes, talk to your optometrist. You know, we're in this, of course, for glasses and contacts, but the eye health part of it is a much bigger portion. We want you to have a good quality of life. We want you to be looking your best. So have these discussions with your eye doc so that you can pick the best tools that you need. So I often don't recommend brands specifically, but for eyelash extensions, I will, because this is an awesome brand and there's not a lot of maybe great cleanser brands out there for extensions. So there's a brand called We Love Eyes, and they do a couple different versions. So as a general rule, if you have eyelash extensions for a cleanser, it has to be oil-free. If it's oil in there, that's going to take the glue right off, and then you're going to lose, you know, your hard-earned money basically. So options to keep that area clean would be hypochlorous spray, which is something you just close the eyes, spritz, let it dry, and you're good. They also make a tea tree water, which is just a foam cleanser. So a pump, kind of lightly kind of dab it to the eyelids, rinse it, you're good to go. And then there's even a brush, as pictured here, that you can kind of go in and just lightly kind of remove any debris that's built up. So these, of course, are available for purchase at Smart Eye Care. We have little lash kits to make it easy. Doesn't mean you have to purchase there. You can get them online. But if you're an eyelash extension wearer, if you know somebody that is, add these into your repertoire. Eyelash serums, also very helpful because they make the eyelashes darker and longer, but be really careful of side effects. So the three most common side effects that I see are red eyes or conjunctival hyperemia, which is the bottom left photo. Another big one that I see is that it can make the skin around the eyelids darker. Nobody wants these dark circles, so be careful about the serums that you're using. And then a third common and kind of side effect that I see from these eyelash serums is orbital fat displacement. You know, the kind of the puffiness under the eyes, a lot of times that's just fat that has been moved to an area that isn't necessarily ideal aesthetically. So if you want longer lashes, talk to your optometrist, figure out what is best for you. It doesn't mean you have to avoid them altogether, but there are some things that you need to be kind of on the lookout for in order to keep your eyes healthy. Neuromodulators, so Botox, Dysport, you know, there's a couple different versions out there. Treating the crow's feet area for fine lines and wrinkles is a kind of a crowd favorite, and it's okay unless you have dry eye. And so sometimes the people who are doing these injections aren't always screening you to see if you have an underlying dry eye condition. And when you inject to that area, which is where the lacrimal gland is, which is what makes your tears, it can kind of paralyze that gland. So then you're just not making the tears that you need to. So if you're somebody who has dry eye and you're thinking about getting, you know, Botox or Dysport or something to treat those areas, talk to your, you know, local optometrist, talk to your injector, and let them know so that you can still get the aesthetic result that you want, but isn't going to cause more dry eye issues down the road. Another big one is eyelash tints and lifts. So an eyelash lift is really just kind of a perm for the lashes, and a tint is basically when you just apply hair dye to the lashes. These I generally recommend avoiding if possible because of the ingredients and the higher likelihood of something like a chemical burn, a true corneal toxicity, or even trauma can occur to the eye. If you're thinking about getting these done, again, just talk to your local, talk to your eye care provider and see maybe which of those would be the best option for you. The photo at the bottom is actually of the cornea of a chemical burn from having one of these procedures done. So not great to basically lose your vision for life over maybe, a couple minutes worth of beauty. We have options out there. There are healthy options. Again, doesn't mean you maybe have to avoid things altogether, but just make sure you're going in with being very informed before you make those choices. The last thing to kind of touch base on are these cosmetic contact lenses. So of course, around Halloween time, they're used to different costume-wise, But you can also kind of find these black market, colored contact lenses to change their eye color. And in the US, if you're buying a contact lens without a prescription, it's illegal. Contact lenses are medical devices. There's actually a lot more that goes into it than just slapping something on the eye. The material matters, the curvature of the contact lens matters. And so, they're an option from if you get a prescription, but don't ever buy contact lenses, even if you're just going to wear it for a couple of hours. It puts you at a higher risk for an infection, and you could potentially lose your vision over it. So not worth it. If you're interested in changing your eye color or doing a different kind of Halloween look, just talk to your eye care provider. Here in the Augusta area, we have a lot of great eye docs. Of course, at Smart Eye Care, but just in general, even at our competitors, they're awesome. They want to help you figure out what contact lens is best for you to achieve your aesthetic goals. So I'll take any questions that you guys have. Hopefully this was informative and you learned a few tips and tricks to kind of incorporate into your beauty or your cosmetic routines. I'm always available for questions. I'm super passionate, so my email address is listed here. I see patients out of our Augusta location, so if you're ever in the area post-COVID, stop by or let me know. I'd be happy to help you find somebody that can help take care of your eye care needs. And if you have dry eye, be sure to check out our new dry eye center.
Great. Thank you, Jessilin. So we do have a question. Do you have a mascara that you would recommend?
Yes and no. If you want to send me an email address, I will send you a list to potentially investigate. But I am sometimes reluctant to give total brands just because the ingredient decks will change. But whoever had that question, email me, let me know, and I'll send you kind of my top 10 that are out there.
Perfect. Any other questions out there? Feel free to put them in the chat box. While we do wait for some questions to come in, I would like to thank you again, Jessilin, for coming in. But typically we do pick a winner, whoever completes the survey that we send out, and we're actually going to choose 2 winners. So we are going to have, I'm going to invite Lisa House. I'm going to unmute her. Lisa, hey. You are unmuted. She is an Avon representative and a member of the chamber, and she donated a great little goodie basket of some cosmetic samples, some cleansers, some stuff from Avon. So I'll let you talk a little bit about it, Lisa.
Hey guys. First of all, Jessilin, I don't even know what to say. Like, the amount of value and education that you gave us is absolutely ridiculous. I'm like, can I just hire her to speak to my team and to my followers? Because I mean, I just got like so much notes, and I have so many questions that I just have to save them and email you. But I was like, I don't even know what else to share now. Anyway, I'm an Avon rep here in Augusta. I do sell cosmetics, skincare, also a skincare and cosmetic junkie, mostly with my serums. I love serums. And mascara. I did try Falsies like, I'd say a few weeks ago, and I could literally feel all the nastiness of it. I used like a magnetic one, and it was so gross. So when I seen that picture, I'm like, nope, I'm gonna stick to my mascara. And so I wanted to share a quick tip because you covered like every other one that I had written down. I was like, oh, she's so good. You were talking about expired mascaras and expired eye makeup and expired skincare and everything. And so one of the things that we don't realize when we use our mascara, when it's kind of getting to the end and we want to do this to try to get, as much mascara as we can, and what we're doing is actually pushing air into our mascara tube. And so all the germs, everything that's in that ear is going into the tube. So rather than going like this to get all your mascara out, because let's see if it's your favorite, like this one is my favorite, and I just checked the ingredients to make sure that it's as good as Avon said it was as far as what you were posting. I was like, woo, that's a thumbs up. But so instead of doing that, kind of just twist your wand a little bit around, that way you're not pushing ear kind of back into it. So then there was that, and just one other tip that I wanted to share really quickly. You were talking about getting different things into your eye when we're using like makeup, like eye remover. And I'm curious to know more about like waterproof, because my eye makeup remover, it's like a lip stain, and it says it's waterproof. And I've never actually seen that, but now I'm like really looking like, wait, why would it be waterproof? It's not. It's supposed to remove things, so why does it? So that's a question I'll have for you. But so one of the things that I stopped doing, I used to use just like a regular cotton pad, but now I use these round ones because it's less. See how like if I pull, it kind of comes out. But like on the cotton, the big cotton balls, like you think if you're in my makeup, something else smudge, because I just want to show you, but like you're rubbing and you think about all that like extra cotton, that's gonna fall into your eyes. It's happened before, and let's just say my eyes were not that pretty and I did not wear eye makeup for a little while because it was so bad. And so like I started using these. I'll use these, or I will use like a face cloth sometimes, depending on whether or not they're clean. But this does really well, and I love how you talked about just making sure like you remove your makeup, just not just your foundation, like your eye makeup specifically. My teenage daughter only wears mascara, and she'll say, well, if I'm going to go out and I'm going to apply it in the morning, can I just leave this on and then just touch it up? No, you can't do that. You have to remove it. And so yeah, I just wanted to share those quick tips. Avon's been around for 134 years, and so we have like a plethora of different products. Some may be better for others. You guys are always welcome to email me and check in if there's something that maybe you have that you're using that's Avon, or maybe it's something that you're thinking about trying. Whoever is going to receive that box, you're going to get a whole bunch of samples. So feel free to email me, call me. My card is in there if you have any questions. If it is, safe for your eye health, again, like she said, check with your doctor, and yeah, that's about it.
Perfect. Thank you, Lisa. And again, so this will be one of the goodie bags that has like stacks of samples in here. So you'll get all kinds of goodies. And then Jessilin also donated another prize. So Jessilin, if you want to tell them a little bit about your donation.
Yeah, so it's an eye health kind of cosmetic care package that has a lot of fun ingredients. So whoever wins it will have a card that will kind of walk you through what it is, why it's healthy, why it's how you can use it kind of in your routine. So, and if you have questions about it, just email me and let me know.
Perfect. So everyone who registered today will receive an email with the survey link for just a quick little survey, monkey survey. So complete that by the end of the day, and we'll choose 2 winners, and we'll shoot you an email if you get picked. And then you can come by the office and pick it up. So we do have some more questions, so I'll pop over there real quick. Thank you so much for addressing the secret of ingredients in eye and skincare needs. We are so on board here at the Senator Spa with the products that we carefully select here, and I love care that I have received personally from Smart Eye Care. Another question, I wanted to find out about lash lift and tints. I've had it done and it seems safer and less a risk than extensions, yet you say lift and tints are super unsafe. Lift and tint versus extensions seem to me the comparison between manicure gel versus acrylics. Everybody knows that gels are much less as of a risk than acrylics, so isn't lash lift and tint much safer than lash extensions?
Great question. It has to do more with the ingredients that are involved. So the ingredients that are in the tint and the lift are a lot harsher to the front surface of the eye than even the formaldehyde glue, right? So it's neither one is perfect. and depending on how often you're exposing kind of your eye to those ingredients, they're just a lot harsher. And so down the road, they potentially have an impact of causing not so great things. The other part of it is the process of how it's done. You know, for the lift, there's a little tool, the rod basically, where it's kind of curled around, and you know, there's a couple different versions of how it's done. Because of how it falls so close to that and the mechanical actions that's involved, the risks of having a complication from that are just a little bit higher than kind of placing, you know, a hair-like follicle to the base of the lash. So I get how it could look like that, but when you look at kind of the more specifics, it could potentially cause some higher risks. Doesn't mean it's risk-free. And, you know, we'd probably need a true kind of peer-reviewed study to really assess, you know, the ultimate kind of scientific impact of both. But generally, harsher ingredients and more mechanical trauma risk during the procedure.
And then we just had one other comment that said, I love the We Love Eyes products. They make a huge difference and my eyes feel so much more fresh. So another good testimony on that. And then just another comment saying, great information. Thank you very much. So yes, thank you, Jessilin. This was great. I will say I've gotten those oil gland pictures that you've taken, and they send you, you can get this like heat pack that you can kind of relax and it loosens things up. So if you don't have one of those, it's a great way to just kind of relax and unwind at home too. It's kind of like, well, the doctor said I have to sit here for 5 minutes and do this. Leave me alone, everyone. So perfect. Thank you, Jessilin. Thank you again for everyone for joining us today. Thank you again to Maine State Credit Union for being our sponsor, and we'll see everybody next month.
Thank you.
See ya.